Let's go.
This is turning into one of the weirdest shows I've ever done. It really is.
Catch me if you can, goddammit. Catch me if you can. You hear me?
Will Noonan's so funny and I'm after him, so I guess I'm after Noonan.
You're listening to Hypothetically with Will Noonan.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is where you are. Thank you for listening to Hypothetically with Will Noonan. That's me, coming at you right now from my car, driving by a cop. I got one eye on him. Let me take my headphones off for a sec. Going headphoneless right now, just talking into the recorder as I drive. He didn't notice anything. He gave me a look. He waved me on. But I think I'm in the clear. That's a nice smooth start to any broadcast. Fear of arrest. I'm driving to North Andover, Massachusetts right now to do a show with Robert Pooley and Zach Russell, two funny young fucks here in Boston. Young guns, funny dudes. I met Zach for the first time. He was doing a comedy contest that I was the host of, the Nick's Funniest College Kid contest, which is a lot of fun to host. And that's where I met Zach for the first time, I think. And Pooley I've met just doing his shows through Zach. Pooley's a funny dude and a funny, he makes these, he acts in videos with this dude, Trace Gatos. And I don't really know much about that. I'm actually going to ask him more about that tonight, but super funny. Check it out on YouTube. It's called Scalpers, and it's a Boston based video sketch. There's a few episodes of it. It's got a lot of my buddies in it and a lot of guys I know in it, and it's just really fucking funny. But you know, a lot of comedians put out funny sketches, and that's not really what stood out to me about it. I mean, actually, it's really hard to make something that's actually truly funny. So I give him credit for that. But even more impressive to me was just how good it looks and how well shot it is and how well edited it is. Better than a lot of the fucking professional jobs that I've worked on that are supposed to be cool, young, hip, and slick. And I don't know how much Robert or Trace, which is probably, I don't even know what his real name is, but I don't know which one of them is like, you know, Joel Cohen and which one's Ethan Cohen, but either way, they're a good team and I like what they do, so I'm going to go do a show with them. But that's you know, that's just what's happening right now. What's happening in the world right now is this Kevin Spacey thing. I wanted to talk about it a lot because I have a little bit of a scoop on this, and I'm kind of pissed. God, there's just so much to say. I think I said to you guys the last time I did a podcast was about Harvey Weinstein. I said there's another one that's going to come out or something. I don't know if I alluded to it, but I've known about this for a long fucking time. I've known about this Kevin Spacey shit since I was 18 years old. All right, do the math on that. How did Will know about this Kevin Spacey shit since he was 18 years old? Actually, I personally was never fucked with by Kevin Spacey. I wasn't the cutest 18-year-old, I don't think. I was still a booze hound at that age. I wasn't working out yet. I smoked. I was a little rough around the edges. I don't think I was Kevin Spacey's real type, but my buddy Eric was. I thought about calling him and asking him if he remembers any of this, but I know he's still an actor, so I don't know if he wants to. And I don't want to reveal his last name. He's not famous, but he's been in some stuff. I don't know if he really wants to be wrapped into all this stuff. But the thing is, the guy who accused Kevin Spacey first was this actor Anthony Rapp, who was about 2 years ahead of me in acting school. So we went to the same alma mater, which is the American Musical and Dramatic Academy in New York City, AMDA. And when I was going there, he was already a pretty big star in a sense. He was one of the original cast members of Rent and killing it. And I think I was going to school, I don't know, a couple years after Rent came out. Or a few years. I don't even fucking know. But his face was on the wall, and he came and spoke to us a bunch of times. And overall, seemed like a pretty good guy. I met him a few times. But the thing is, I've been telling people since the Harvey Weinstein things came out and people started talking. I was like, Kevin Spacey's gonna be the first one. Kevin Spacey's gonna be the first gay guy to get accused by another guy. Trust me, it's gonna happen. It's gonna come out. I said I knew about this James Toback dude. I knew actresses that knew him the same period of time when I was at AMDA. But that was out. I was just like, I know this Kevin Spacey thing. It's like a big secret that I know, because I just know at least 3 or 4 guys that have had issues with Kevin Spacey. And this was back when I really had never done anything. I was just an acting school student. I had done some off-Broadway plays, and I was currently doing some off-Broadway plays. And that's the world. When I was in that world, that's when I knew about all this stuff, because those are the types of guys that Kevin Spacey really dug. My buddy Eric, we used to make fun of him for this, because he continued to be friends with me until like my mid-20s, and we made fun of him for this nonstop, because he knew straight up. He was like, guys, Kevin Spacey wants to hang out with me. And we were all like, oh. And we were like, he probably wants to fuck you, dude. And it wasn't really necessarily because we really knew a bunch of rumors about Kevin Spacey at that point, because to be honest, I don't think I did. I don't even think I knew he was gay. I think this is how I found out Kevin Spacey was gay, because this would be around 2001, 2002, right after 9/11. And I don't think the Kevin Spacey is gay thing was really public, common knowledge, unspoken kind of thing. I think people still might have thought he was straight at this point. I think the way I found out he was gay was because I was going to acting school and people were like, yo, if Kevin Spacey asks you to go to dinner and you're not gay, don't go, because it's not about your career or whatever. And that was kind of his deal. I know he ran a theater company. He was in charge of a theater company in London and a theater company in New York. So those 2 different cool fucking places he could go. And he would tell young dudes like at the 18, 19-year-old level, breaking into acting, stars in their eyes, he would tell them, hey, I can do some shit for you. Like, I got these theater companies. We got a part that would be perfect for you. And take them out to dinner and get them a little fucked up, and like not just, hey, come back to my place, but like start fucking with you right there at the table. So it was a known thing amongst me and my friends at just 18 years old, 19 years old. Only been in New York City in the acting world for months, less than a year, and we already knew kind of the skinny on Kevin Spacey. Now, this is where I sound like an old guy, but I'm like, I thought then and still think now that it wasn't, obviously Anthony Rapp, in his story, he's like 15 or 14, but to us, we didn't obviously know that story. And to us, it was like 18, 19-year-old guys, and he didn't fucking force himself on anyone. There were a couple guys who I think maybe were taken advantage of in a sense, where they hooked up with Kevin Spacey thinking, it would get them some parts or something in their career, and then nothing ever happened. I think that was probably happened to a lot of guys, which you could say is fucked up. But then again, if you're only having sex with someone to get something in return, you're not the greatest person either. So it's sort of, you made a bad deal, right? If you do that. And I know a few guys did do that. A few straight guys were like, fuck it. I want to make it in this town, and he's an Oscar winner. So fuck it. And that was the thing. Eric didn't. My friend Eric didn't, but we all used to claim that he was lying about that and that he really had. But he was just like, I couldn't just force myself to be gay just to hopefully get some roles from Kevin Spacey. And also he found out, he knew that the theater company, like he knew that he had backed out on the deal, or backed into it, if you know what I mean, with his butthole. He knew he hadn't really paid up on a few other guys, so it wasn't necessarily a guarantee that if you suck Kevin Spacey's dick or something like that, you were gonna get a part from him or something. But here's the thing about my buddy Eric, which is sort of the funniest. When you know stuff like this, when you've known about something like this for years, and then it comes out that it's kind of true, and then you find out shit you didn't know, like, because that's the thing. Eric looked like, we were all 18, 19 years old, but Eric looked like he was about 12 years old. He probably still does. I haven't seen a picture of him in a while, but I know he's over 30 now, and he still looks really fucking young. We used to call him like the boy. And when we were in school, he would always play the boy in every scene. If there was a child role, he would almost always have to play it. He was just a really young-looking motherfucker, and it worked to his great advantage. I remember he got cast in a lot of plays. He was a good-looking dude. He wasn't a bad actor either. He was a good-looking dude, and he got cast in a lot of things because they would need someone who looked 13, 14, 15, but could act. And Eric, I saw him in a lot of crazy, wacky plays because he looked young, but he was old. So he'd be in all these plays where like he was having sexual relationships with like older people. He was in a lot of male versions of like Lolita. Maybe just 2, but that's a lot to me. So Eric, I gotta see if I almost called his number that I haven't called in like 10 years today to just see if he wanted to talk about it on the phone, but I just didn't. I really almost came close. But anyway, so he's a good dude. And we made I didn't like lose touch with him for any particular reason. It was just like when I lived in New York, I was just like a bar hound type dude, and when I left, I just kind of left all that behind. So it wasn't anything personal. But we used to make fun of him for years and years because he'd be like, "Yeah, you fucking kiss Kevin Spacey with that mouth, or you say something fucked up, or do something stupid." And there was a lot of laughs. But here's the thing about me, and something I've learned about myself in the past couple days, is that I'm a shallow prick because I do not care. Personally, I did not care at all that Kevin Spacey is a creep. I mean, yeah, and I'd rather him not be, but it doesn't really like keep me up at night that Kevin Spacey's a weirdo. By the way, being gay isn't what makes him a weirdo, but fondling 14-year-olds makes him creepy and weird to me. But I will say there's something about it coming out that pissed me off, that I was like, I should have just said something. I should have just said it on my podcast. I should have been saying it this whole time. I should have just been openly fucking slandering Kevin Spacey, saying he tricks people. Because at least now that it's out, I'd have the credit for having always said it. Instead of like nothing. What did I do? I kept a secret for a creepy gay pedophile Oscar winner for no reason, out of some weird acting theater code where I was like, that's just the way it is, man, and we don't talk about it. Because at that age, I think that's when you're really most exposed to all of it. When I was 18, 19, 20, that's when I knew a bunch of girls who were having problems with James Toback and a bunch of dudes who were having problems with Kevin Spacey. And that was 2001, 2002, 2003, that period of time. In New York. If I lived in LA, maybe I would know some chicks who got fucked by guys out there, but I wasn't out there really. But the thing is, everyone knows, even on that level is what I'm saying. I was a complete nobody. Not that I'm even somebody now, but I'm like on a fucking couple list somewhere. But back then, you're just a fresh off the turnip truck, dopey ass motherfucker sitting in New York City, and you sign up for acting school and you do a couple off-Broadway plays, and before you know it, you're already wrapped up in this world where if you're a woman, you could be getting fucked with by James Toback, or a man, you're getting fucked with by Kevin Spacey. But here's where me and the popular culture these days part ways, is because I feel like it's up to each individual person to deal with those situations. Now, it was no secret to me, even as a high school kid going to New York, that there was going to be creepy aspects to show business. The casting couch is a thing that everyone has known about since the 1950s. Show business itself, theater, even high school theater, there's a lot of fucking. There's a lot of actors fuck, directors fuck actors. It is an artistic business, and it's not always the most professional environment. Even every film set I've been on, there's this weird thing with film sets where people just kind of flirt with each other. That's why it always bothers me to work with children, because they pick that up, they pick up that energy, and you can see it sometimes when you're watching a movie. You're like, scenes between adults and children, you're just like, this is a little too fucking adult of a convo. And it's because that kid has an adult personality, and the energy of a film set just has this weird flirtation, not just a film set, a theater production. It's just kind of how people stay in the mood to be a creative team. It's just this weird thing. I'm sure astronauts probably fucking do it too. Why did I say that? I don't know. I have no idea why I'm sure astronauts do that. That was a really big jump to go from comedians do this thing to probably astronauts too. One small step for most people, one giant leap for that metaphor. Look at that. Double entendre. Getting my brain back after quitting smoking for a month. Over a month now. And I'm starting to feel like I can think again. There's definitely a little bit of a fog. Not necessarily even a bad one. To be 100% genuine with you guys. I'm trying not to say to be honest, if you remember from last week. So anyway, that's kind of my scoop, which isn't much of a scoop on Kevin Spacey. I guess the real scoop is that I was mad I didn't get to be the one who broke the story, but I didn't really have anything on myself. I don't even want to break the story. This is how much of a Boston Irish prick I am. I don't even want to break the story. I just want to be able to say to all of you listeners and everyone who knows me, see, I always told you, and now I'm right. Now I'm fucking proven right. There are a few things in an Irishman's life that are that sweet as being thought to be full of shit and then being found out to be correct. Because we are so often full of shit, we know that these moments of being correct are the stilts that support all of our Irish bullshit that we're doing the rest of the time. So every now and then we really need to drive the point home that we know a little something so we can pretend to know more than we really do. That's the key to not just Irishmen, really, but many men of all nationalities. But, yeah, that was kind of thing on Kevin Spacey. It is funny. It is funny how you kind of keep a secret like that for no reason. But it was also really validating that my brother I'd always said it to, my mother I'd always said it to, and my inner circle of friends I'd always said, for the past month or two, I've been like, Kevin Spacey's next. And in the past, I've just had a couple weird anecdotes about Kevin Spacey when he'd pop on. I'd be like, well, I got a couple stories about him. So if you've been around me a lot for the past couple years, you know. And it was really validating to have all those people call me or text me and be like, damn, you were fucking right about Kevin Spacey. Look at this shit. My brother especially, he was like the first one to send me the original BuzzFeed article about the whole thing. So I think it proves that this stuff happens to men as much as it happens to women. And it's not a male-woman thing. It's not that men even do this more than women, I think. There's good people and there's bad people, because I've seen some plenty of monstrous gals in show business. Real bad personalities, very cruel to people. I've seen a lot of that. It's just in a different way. A man like Harvey Weinstein might be more apt to fucking be like, I just want to jerk off in this bush. Why you watch me? That's what I want, and that's what I'm gonna get. Yeah, that's more of a stupid male. Women don't have that urge as much, but I think it's more like a woman to, say, slowly bully someone until they want to commit suicide on purpose. I've seen some stuff like that in showbiz where people are like, I'm just gonna make this person's life hell. But as a comedian in the production side of comedy, I've some of the meanest and worst and like rattiest bookers I've met have been women, and some of them are guys. But the worst I've ever encountered is probably a woman. So I give everyone an equal standing on being a piece of shit. I'm sure therapists could tell you just as many people have mean fathers as have mean mothers. It's probably just a 50-50. Some people they don't have their shit together and they take it out on the world. Which leads me kind of into my next topic, which is what the fuck is with therapy comedy right now is all the rage. And let's talk about it. How do you feel about it? Because I'm at odds with myself a little bit, because I know on this podcast I've talked a great deal about anxiety and mental health. I like to think not too much or not solely. I'd like to think I've spiced it up a lot and hit different topics from time to time on this podcast where you don't get bored with me just talking about mental health all the time. But I've been open, motherfuckers, about having some struggles with panic attacks in the past and all the different ways I've tried to deal with the panic attacks. And I've been honest with you guys when I'm going through a tough time. But when I'm not going through tough times, I don't talk about it as much. The point of this is I feel guilty criticizing comics right now because there's a big trend in comedy right now to talk about what's going on with you mental health wise, and I hesitate to criticize them because I have done that so much on this podcast. I've talked about mental health stuff, but I thought about it, and you know what? The conclusion I came to is that a podcast isn't stand-up comedy. No one's paying to listen to this podcast. In fact, a podcast that's a journal of a life of a stand-up comedian is basically it's an addendum to my stand-up act. It's a not title. It's a cliff note or something. It goes with it, but it's not. If you paid money to come see me, I wouldn't want to necessarily sit there and bum you out with my problems or whatever. There's a certain... I was just talking to an older comedian than me. Just, he's been in the business longer than me. He's not a ton older than me in year-wise. I don't know, maybe 10 years. I don't know how old this guy is, but but he's been in the business a lot longer than me, and he's been all over the place. He knows a lot, and we were talking about but like me, he kind of likes to work his stuff out at the open mics or do shows that don't pay. Not a lot of the guys, as they get older into their 40s and stuff, want to keep doing shows that don't pay just because it's a good time or just because they want to work on shit. They're like, hey, I do an hour every night on the weekend. I'll work out my shit in there somewhere. Or, when I go to the open mics, everyone looks at me weird or whatever. It's not a real crowd. You can come up with a lot of excuses. And I get it. It's not for everyone. But I think it's good to kind of be out there and see what the open micers are working on, because that's usually the next thing. Like, it's usually the way the wind's blowing is what those guys are doing, and it just keeps you fresh to be out there with them. But there's a big trend right now where everyone's just bombing all the time, and no one's really no one's entertaining or being super funny because they're trying. I get what they're doing. There's this thing right now to go up there and be like, oh man, I've been diagnosed with depression, I've been diagnosed with anxiety, I've been diagnosed with OCD, ADD, ADHD. I have these problems. There's a temptation to be like, wow, especially if you're white, you don't have a lot of interesting shit to talk about on stage. At first glance at yourself, you're like, well, I'm just an average white person. It's not really entertaining in stand-up right now, 2017. You're going to open mics, you hear, there's a ton of diversity right now. Everyone's like doing impressions of their parents. That's the big thing to do when you're not white, is be like, oh my God, my name's Mike, and I'm just like you, but my skin is brown. But let me tell you, when I go back to Peabody and visit my dad, he is always like, Michael, when are you going to stop doing the stand-up comedy and get back to doing schoolwork like I want you to? And then the crowd goes wild, and you're sitting there in the crowd going like, oh man, this guy has just already out of the gate, he's so much more fucking interesting than I am. I don't have a fucking dad with a crazy voice that can get me laughs at comedy shows. There's probably a lot of people listening to this right now going like, hey, I do an impression of my dad's voice. And I get it. We all do what we got to do. And when my brother came out as being gay, I was like, finally, I have something that's something I can talk about. Because when you're like a straight white man in your 20s, what the fuck is interesting about you? Hey, I love light beer. And I hate, not getting laid. buckle up. There's some crazy fucking hot takes on the world. So I get the temptation to sit there and be like, man, what's interesting about me? What's interesting about me? Well, I have depression. Well, I have anxiety. That's a big problem for me. I think about it all the time. My doctor gives me pills for it. Maybe, and they say it's relatable. I'll do jokes about that. But that's not really the same as having a dad with a funny voice or fucking all these other kind of hack jokes open micers tend to do at the beginning, because you're talking about an illness. You're talking about an affliction. You're talking about something that really is just not happy, or which is fine too. A lot of comedians have gotten a very long way talking about things that are not happy. Most comedians, that's sort of what comedy is. You twist sadness into happiness, happiness into sadness, all that sort of shit. But to go up there and to just dump sort of stuff on people without any real follow-up. You can't just end your joke with like, so that's fun. Yeah, I have OCD, so I go out and wash my hands like 40 times a day. So that's fun. That's not a punchline. And now the crowd just feels bad for you. And also, sometimes you got to remember, they might have gone out to not think about their OCD, or they might have gone out to not think about their son with OCD. Am I saying that these things are bad? No, but I have, sore knees. But I don't have 15 minutes of material about my sore knees that I go up there and force on people when they just want to have a Friday or a Saturday night out and laugh. Now, this is the problem. I think there's comedy there, where I think there's some comedy in anxiety and depression and OCD, but I don't think it's for a newer comic to really fuck with. It's like certain topics like divorce, OCD, mental health problems, death. Some of these things are best. You gotta be like a level 99, level 90 comedian. Like Louis C.K. is the guy with the quintessential bit about divorce. Chris Rock is the comedian with the quintessential bit about race. You're not just going to come up with it in your first 2 weeks of open micing. You're not going to be like, holy shit, I'm really killing it with this audience about depression. It's like showing up at a golf course without ever having played golf and been like, I've decided to only use my putter because putting's hard. It's the hardest part of this game. So I figure if I can drive with my putter and I can hit from the fairway with my putter and I can putt with my putter, by the end of this, I'll be fucking awesome. And fuck using a driver and fuck using all those other things. I'll just use this putter I brought because I feel good with it and it's safe. And I've seen other guys make great putts. I don't know if that analogy was really that fitting, but it's really, these are hard things. Like, I don't think I'm that much better than a lot of comedians, but I do think I think about it a lot and I work hard on what I'm doing, and I do want people to leave my shows feeling better than they entered. And so I cut things that I feel like are bumming people out or not working. But I have this newer bit about quitting drinking. Now, it's been 8 years since I quit drinking. I'm just now starting to write jokes about it, because of course, I've tried over the years here and there, but I just always felt like I wasn't hitting it. I was just bumming people out. So I started to write a joke about quitting drinking, and I realized the hardest thing, I could joke about quitting drinking eventually, but it was super hard to tell the crowd I'd quit drinking while they're looking at a guy who they consider to be young and fun and happy up until this moment. And then I tell them I quit drinking, and they immediately start doing mental math where they're like, well, what the fuck happened? And they start picturing me in a fucking rehab, or they're picturing me like in a dark room crying, or they're picturing me shooting heroin. They have no idea, but they know something happened that I had to quit drinking. And it would just take the energy out of the room like every single time. I had to figure out a way to get the point across that I quit drinking without bumming people out. And it was super hard. It took 2 months of trying all these different things. Now, the thing I finally settled on is I just say, I quit drinking, and there's that you feel the energy. There's no sound even, but the energy goes out there, and you just go, oh wait, before you get sad. It's not a big deal. I just quit because it wasn't agreeing with me. It made me sleepy. It made my cars crashy, and it gets a laugh. And now it's like, I'm cool with it. You're cool with it. Let's talk about it, and then I can get into doing some bits. Am I telling this example like, this is how you do comedy, motherfuckers? No, but what I'm saying is, I've been doing it 10 years, and that took me a few months to come up with. Trial and error, different ways. And it might sound like a really simple little way of saying it, and like, oh, well, it's funny, like, I'm sure it probably took 2 minutes to think of. It took months to work that out, to get it just the right way, where you're not getting applause for quitting drinking, or you're not getting like a sad silence for quitting drinking. None of that shit's good. You just want to do a bit about it. Sometimes over that course of that 2 months, I was like, is this even fucking worth it, really? But I just had so many bits about quitting drinking and this thing with my niece and old duels and stuff I just wanted to do, so I was determined to do it. But I think if I were a comedian right now, and I am a comedian right now, but if I were a young unemployed comedian right now trying to make it to something, to at least being full-time where I'm paying the bills with comedy, I would not be spending a ton of my time trying to turn huge, heavy, really difficult to do comedy about topics. I wouldn't really waste too much time trying to do that. It's not really for you yet. Learn how to do the basics before you start trying to reinvent the wheel. You don't come into you don't walk into your first day of mechanics school and start trying to design like a water-fueled vehicle. You're like, I'm gonna get rid of gasoline. It's like, hey man, that's great. We would love it if you could one day get rid of gasoline and do a water-powered car. But first, you got to figure out how the car motherfucking works. You got to figure out what makes this thing go when you put your foot on the gas. What are we gonna call the gas, by the way, when you change it? But anyway, it's a bummer. I've been going to open mics, and since I quit smoking cigarettes, I've just been sitting there and watching more of them. Been trying to watch more stand-up from the open micers, and I happen to just coincidentally been booked on a couple shows with young like bringer type shows where guys are trying out at the clubs and stuff. I did a few of those, so I just watched a lot of comedy, more than I had in months. And I was just like, man, there's like a lot. If I were sitting in this crowd, I'd be like, how many jokes about depression and anxiety and OCD can a single crowd really stomach? And to be honest, none of them are great. Joe List has a bunch of not a bunch. He's got like 5 great minutes on anxiety, but it's not his whole act. If you want to learn how to do it right, I think that would be the guy you'd want to check out, is Joe List. He's really good at doing a little bit of mental health stuff that makes you laugh and is really clever and still a joke, and then jokes. Just don't forget, if you're a fucking stand-up comic, do some fucking jokes. It's not 100% about you. I think I'm a little fucking more, because I started as an actor, and maybe I'm just a little bit more of a needy guy or something, but I do like to make them laugh. Like, I'm one of those guys who I like to make them feel good. I like to take someone who's bummed out and have them be happy when I leave. And I know that's fucking corny, and I know a lot of comics and Ari Shaffir and shit are like, fuck that, it's about me, and I go up there. But I think even those guys who say that are a little bit full of shit, because it feels good to make people happy and to make them laugh, and that's the rush you get from a room full of people. And it's, for me, I don't think 100% about me. I'm like, man, this is like a shared experience. This is rad. And you meet enough people who tell you that they felt a magic or something while they were at the show. That's the shit I want to keep going and keep recreating over and over again. So think about that, I think, when you're writing material. Don't just think about how can I turn what's interesting about me. Okay, the one thing that's interesting about me is my mental health problem. Well, maybe not. And also, that's not even that interesting anymore. It's pretty fucking hacky. It's an overdiagnosed culture of problems. We all got them. I got them. I got a couple of them. Everyone I know has got a couple of them. But my sister, for example, doesn't have any. But I bet if she went to a doctor and said, yeah, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, I'm feeling this, they'd be like, oh, well, you have this. And then now she has this stigma on her where she thinks she has something. Now, I'm not saying, I think all this stuff is real. I've had very bad anxiety problems with myself. I've talked about it openly many times. But I always fought it. And I also always considered stand-up comedy to be an escape from all that and a happy place to go to feel good and forget about my anxiety and depression for a little while and go do the thing I love. So I just want, I know a lot of young comedians listen to this shit, and I know not everyone's doing that, and I know a lot of people, you know, sometimes you just want to go to an open mic some nights and just do that, and you're not necessarily even working on an act about it. You just want to get it off your chest one night, and I understand all that too, and that's all good. But there's a trend in comedy right now to just be very sensitive and be a watchdog and kind of like, just all that stuff's good, but just remember to tell jokes too. That's the point I think I'm trying to make here as a comedian. It's like, all that shit's good. Make them think, make them feel, but number one, you got to make them laugh. So don't forget that, because then we'll all be out of business. That's why guys like me and this older guy that I was talking to get fucking antsy about it and get critical. It was because we've seen things, kind of trends can come and go, and they can fuck us all. Like if the people on TV and the famous comedians start sucking, it hurts us all, man. We all stop losing gigs. Like because it's like, when Kevin Hart and Amy Schumer and Louis C.K. are filling up arenas, it's good for like little guys like me, because they're like, well, we can't get him and we can't get the next guy down, but we can't get the next guy down, but we can get Will Noonan, and that's something. But when the fucking most famous comedians in the world all retire, and then the next crop comes up and they all stink, like they kind of did there in the early 2000s, it's just like, it's like, so long, see you later, fun gigs for guys like me. They're like, let's just get a magician, or let's get a hypnotist, or let's get karaoke, or something. So I just like to, you know, I'm a purist. I care about this fucking comedy shit. I love it. I hate to see good comedy die, and I don't think it is, but there's a real weird culture right now with like outrage and virtue signaling while you're like virtue signaling from your stand-up act. Like I always understood comedians trying to get laid on stage. I always understood it. I don't think I ever did it too much, other than adding, I'm single. Like when you first break up with someone, you'll say that more, just putting it out there more. I'm single. Other than that, I don't think I've ever really tried. Some guys write their whole act is like a quest to get pussy, and now I'm seeing that more and more with like, it's not just, they don't just want the pussy, they want the dicks and the pussy. They want everyone to think they're fucking awesome. So it's like, before they can get to a joke or a punchline, they got to tell everyone that they're cool with this and they're cool with that and they do this, and it's like all this fucking all these, it's almost like a contract, you know? Well, don't worry, guys. Before I get into my comedy, I believe in this, and I support these people, and I like this, and I like that, and I like this. So you can just relax with me because I'm like you, and nothing unsafe is going to happen here. So buckle up because that's safe, but you won't even need that seatbelt because nothing scary is going to happen. It's pretty much, and now jokes. Well, so I was at my therapist this morning, and he says I need more pills, so that happened. Okay, I'm dying laughing over here. And it's funny to me how a lot of these people, in the same breath, they'll be like, you know who the best comedian ever was? Dave Attell. You know who I fucking love watching? Nick DiPaolo. You know who else I fucking love? Mitch Hedberg. It's like, all right, what do all three of those guys have in common? Shitloads of fucking jokes. Funny fucking jokes. So just do what the guys you like do. I could never go up. Would you want to go to a comedy club and listen to some guy talk about how sore his foot was for 10 minutes? I mean, a minute or two at most, if it's good sore foot material. So what's the fucking point? of going to listen to someone talk about their fucking sad feelings, because we all get them and we all know what it feels like. And unless you got some real hot new take or some real clever way of that no one else has touched, sorry to say, it's pretty hacky. Everyone else is going to be doing the same shit. I keep hearing the same jokes, you know? So that happened. Anyway, I'm almost there. I might have to do a little bit after, or maybe I'll get there and just keep it rolling. I'll keep it rolling, motherfuckers. Keep it rolling, motherfuckers. This is so dangerous. I'm driving and reading my shit at the same time. That was my point. I had a joke. I don't know if it's gonna last or not. It was a tweet that kind of turned into a joke. I was saying I'm not really white trash, but I am a little bit white clutter. When I first made the joke, I just meant I was literally cleaning my room, and my room doesn't get real dirty, but I do get cluttery. I'm like the type of guy who will open up a package and just throw the cardboard in the corner of the room, and then I'll open up something else that's cardboard and I'll throw that on it, and now I have a little cardboard pile. And then I'm like, hey, cardboard pile. And it's not really dirty trash, but then I got like this pile of boxes and cardboard in the corner, and I'm like, that's not really good looking. That's clutter. I gotta throw that out. That's not trash. And that's I was thinking that's kind of how I am. I'm kind of white trash. Like, I like kind of white trashy things. I like smoking butts, but I quit. But I like it. I like NASCAR. I like hiking in the woods. I like bluesgrass music. But that's the thing. I just kind of like that kind of shit. And I can hang with white trash people. That's the other thing. I can talk to them. I can hang with them. It doesn't completely fuck me up. I'm not a huge fan, but I can do it. I can better than my brother and my sister. I think I can coexist alongside the white trash, which all those things combined, I feel like makes me white clutter, which is like a little bit better than white trash, right? But then I started thinking about it more and more, and I was like, maybe white clutter has like a deeper meaning than just being a little white trash but still classy. Maybe it also means that clutter is in the way. Clutter just gets in everything's way and makes something that formerly looked good just look a little not good. And I think if you want to look at it on a deeper level, brah, you want to really twist that thing around and fucking look at it from all angles, that's another way I feel like white clutter, man. Because no one fucking wants... Well, actually, that's not necessarily true in my real life. But if you were to believe Facebook and Twitter and what's happening in the industry trades and all that shit, you would think that a white dude is just clutter. A white male in America is just... We're in the way of progress. We're in the way of people's sexuality. We're in the way of everything. We're harassing people. It's like, I keep thinking it would be a fun experiment to change my name to something foreign sounding and to apply to a bunch of festivals with my same jokes. I might have to do like brand new jokes that no one's heard me do before, obviously, and then I'd have to maybe wear a little bit of a disguise. But I've thought about it a lot, like applying to a bunch of comedy shows under like the name like what I was thinking like I was thinking like something, I don't know, sort of Arabic, but also like could be Russian, like Tarkov Sarkizl or something like that. Tarkov Sarkeesiy. And that would be like my fake. And then I'd apply to a bunch of festivals and get in. But the other thing, I would do my old jokes as Will Noonan and apply as Will and see if I could get into more festivals as the foreign guy. I think I absolutely would. I think it would be like no contest at all. So that's why I wouldn't even bother doing it. But it's just, there's trends in this fucking biz, and that's just one of them right now. I've even in only the decade that I've been doing it, I've I've seen women be like a hot commodity and a cold commodity. I've seen political comedy come, go, and then come back again. So I'm not really like, nothing really freaks me out. I'm just more thinking like, okay, I guess I'm going to stick to just writing and getting better and doing my podcast and keeping the people I already got. And definitely not expecting Netflix to come calling like. But you know, I saw the next issue of comics for that for the stand-ups, and there's some real great ones, and they got some diversity, but it's not over the top. So I'll give them credit. They're booking some just solid, good comics on there. So that's a step in the right direction. But for as far as like Comedy Central and Conan and a lot of these shows, not Conan either. I don't know. Maybe this is just white clutter talk and white clutter complaining. But I do feel like it might already be almost ending a little bit. But I do feel like there was just a period of time for the past year or two where it's like, hey man, we've heard it. We've heard your clever thoughts. I've heard the white point of view. And I'm in Boston saying that. I can't imagine. People are still pretty fucking down with the white cause. That's when you start getting in trouble when you start saying things like, why isn't anyone down with the white cause? You know, which is just to maintain the status quo. The white cause. Pronounce the white cause. Definition, maintaining the status quo. I think that is a sign of getting older. When I was younger, I really wanted everything to change. And the more I age, the more I just want things to stay the same. But I don't think that's necessarily because of my age. I think it might be partly because the world has just gotten progressively more fucked up since the day I turned 18 years old. Everything was pretty solidly normal until I was 18. And a lot of people can say, yeah, the world changes when you turn 18. That's true, but those people didn't have 9/11 happen a month before they turned 19. And then Donald Trump and fucking an unemployment like time. Before Trump, there was unemployment like no one had ever seen. The year I got, into the employment game myself, the year it was time to start working was the worst time to be employed in America in like 50 years. And then fucking Donald Trump is fucking causing all kinds of problems for me. My life. I won't say he's causing problems. Here's the way that Donald Trump has fucked my life up on a personal level. Is that audiences are less. It's so hard to bring audiences together, even when times are good. But when people are this fucking divided over politics and other stupid shit, they're like even more fucking impossible to get on the same page. It's just not even. It's not even fucking funny how many weird. It's almost every show, or 75% to 80% of the shows since Trump was inaugurated, that I've had someone yell out some crazy shit. I had my show in hey, there's Josh Day and RDP. I just pulled into the spot. Let me go talk to them for a second. Stop complaining. Hey, you guys want to do a podcast real quick? Recording? Yeah, I'm finishing it up. Sure. Josh Day.
Hi, Will Noonan. How are you?
What's up? RDP.
Hello, William.
I just had a chick the other day tell me RDP is so hot.
That's accurate. I've never heard anyone say it, but
Is she slow?
I think it's now that he's cuffed up. You know how chicks do that? Once you have a girl and they see that it's going good.
Yeah, those girls are insane.
Chris Penny just pulled up, doing a podcast.
Hi, podcast people.
Penny, speaking of hot,
They have 10 more minutes.
Speaking of hot people, Penny got voted like hottest dude like last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah, I was on that list last year. You were on the list again this year, right?
I don't know. I was unaware last year too.
There was a list that came out the other day.
I didn't make the list.
You didn't make it? Josh Day didn't make the list.
His life is in shambles.
I didn't want to be on the list anyway.
Josh has a full
Exactly
beard.
what you would say.
It's done wonders.
Yeah.
It really blows.
It's like
up
being
What's going on, man?
it's like being good looking in rehab or something to be a good looking comedian, but that's that. This feels wrong. I got 10 minutes. I got 10 minutes to kill. No, I'll just do it late after the show. It is weird, right? Just walk up. Bye, guys. I have headphones on. Anything you guys want to plug?
When I pulled in, I saw you with the headphones, and I'm like, he's doing this podcast.
I pulled in and I saw them talking. You got anything you want to plug, Chris?
No.
Well, I got to. Oh yeah.
One quick thing. Josh Day just turned 50 years old, so whenever you see him, give him a big shout out.
All right.
It's not true.
There you go.
Church Comedy Series. Stone Church Comedy Series. Newmarket, New Hampshire.
When am I back up there?
I don't know.
Never.
Podcast for real.
I would love to. You've been on it. All right, so I'm back. Just did the show here at Joe Fish in North Andover. It was a great time. Super, honestly, maybe the smallest crowd I've performed for in a long time. 6 women all sitting at one table together. It was like tableside comedy chat. And, it's a little awkward, but it was fun. I'm looking right now, they have comedy night on their sign, but it didn't really pan out attendance-wise. I know it's a new show, but I had fun anyway, regardless, to be honest. I hate to sound like Joe Schmo fucking, especially after what I was saying earlier about depression and anxiety and stuff. But I'm having a good time lately no matter what the fuck I'm doing. That's when life is good. I love October. I feel like it's a great time of year for me. I just thrive in October. And, even though this show is kind of like, a who gives a fuck type of show, it was still a lot of fun to come hang out and with the boys, watch people bomb and struggle. It's like one of the most fun things to do in comedy is watch your friends have a hard time. So I enjoyed it a great deal. I really did. Heading back now. I hope that was interesting to you guys when pulled into the parking lot. I wish I could have got post-game interviews with all those comics too. Oh, there's the China Blossom. I know where I am. North Andover. I wish I could have gotten post-show interviews because all those guys were definitely not in a great mood after they got off stage. Except for maybe Chris Penny. He was in a pretty good mood, but Josh Day, not so much. Artie, not so much. They got into it with the hecklers and the crowds. But yeah, that's comedy for you. It's one of those weird things where you're never out of this type of show if you don't want to be. I mean, if you want to say yeah to people, you'll always be doing smaller shows to work stuff out. Because, I don't know. First of all, it's fun to do. I had a lot of fun tonight. Mike Dorval was there, too. Not to forget anyone. But I had a lot of fun tonight watching this and just, like I said, giggling, watching people work through it. Josh Day, especially, he's a super funny guy, but very, alt and very dark in a lot of his humor. So it's super funny to watch these ladies try and digest it. And I just enjoy that sort of thing. Nick's famous roast beef. Something about the North fucking Shore in Boston. They're obsessed with roast beef. It's not a South Shore thing. We don't give a fuck. I mean, we have it. We have roast beef. We got a couple roast beef places. You don't see us going crazy. Up here, it's like roast beef. Fucking joints everywhere. I think it's because Kelly's roast beef was once a kind of a tourist attraction, so now everyone's like, well, they don't know the difference between Nick's famous roast beef and Kelly's. I don't know why I'm doing a southern accent. Alright, here I am, rock you like a hurricane, getting on the highway, I don't know how anyone drives in Massachusetts without knowing at least a little bit where you're going and stuff. It's fucking crazy. I can see right now that I'm basically doing like a U-turn. I'm using Waze. All right, you know what? This is pretty stupid right now. I'm just driving and doing the podcast. This is like more like a live stream than a than a podcast right now. I haven't smoked much weed today. I've only smoked one bowl of weed today. But I did have a great run with a great new pair of sneakers. And I had a great meditation session. So now I feel, and I just had a fun time with my bros doing comedy. So now I feel kind of baked, even though I'm not baked. I'm kind of hungry though. Trying to eat healthier. That's a tough one. That's a tough fucking nut to crack, ain't it? Trying to eat healthy. Quit smoking, so I gave myself a little bit of like, hey, eat whatever the fuck you want to eat, dude. You're sacrificing a lot. And yeah, you can only do that for a month before you're just a fucking pig, gluttonous pig, right? So now I'm trying to get back to normal eating. But I really can't smell and taste so much better without smoking. Everything is really... The only things I really miss about smoking are really trivial things. Like I miss kind of standing around outside of places getting fresh air, but not really fresh air. I miss sort of just the habit of having something to do with my hands when I was sitting around at home. Like that's really the times I miss it the most. Just sitting at home watching a movie or playing a video game or something like that. That would be the time where I really would have liked to rip a lot of butts, just sitting there fucking zoning and playing video games and ripping butts. I could, but it was almost a problem. Like there were some times when I would play FIFA, I would smoke so many fucking butts that I would actually make myself sick. I would just sit there and be so engrossed in the game and getting competitive and smoking reefer and getting high that I just excuse me. Fuck. I just inhaled a piece of this new microphone windscreen. Oh God. That can't be good. It smells chemically. It smells like chemicals, so inhaling a big chunk of it probably isn't good, but it's in there. What can I do? What can I do about that? But yeah, I got new windscreens. If you notice, the podcast sounds back to normal. Sounds a little better than it has past couple weeks. It's because I finally ordered a bunch of new windscreens for this thing, which cost me about $3, and I should have taken care of it a long time ago. But the good news for me is that I've had good mental health lately for months. The bad news for you is that usually means I'm slow to put out podcasts and do things. Because when I'm happy, I'm not like as much of a taskmaster. I'm more of a when I'm happy, I just go from one thing to the next at a leisurely pace and have fun. But when I'm anxious, I tend to crank things out because I find solace in the work, right? But it's tough, man. If you're having anxiety attacks though and you smoke cigarettes, take it from me right now. Like really, I don't know where that came from, but really consider giving it up because it's not doing what you think it's doing. I totally thought for fucking over a decade that cigarettes relaxed me. It did not take me long this time after quitting to be like, oh my God, I'm so much more relaxed not being addicted to nicotine. I would say that to even to people who vape. It's like, yeah, you're not like, you might not be fucking yourself up, but being addicted to nicotine is not a good time. Like, no matter whether it's killing you or not killing you, it's still like fucking making you wired and fucking jumpy and anxious. I feel so much less anxious and so much less jittery not smoking cigarettes. 100% less. So, something to consider. I don't think I ever would have even believed it, though, if I was listening to this podcast myself or something and I heard that advice. It's one of those things you can't really believe, right? Like smokers, we don't want to believe fucking anything until we experience it ourselves. So there's really no point in what I just said because you're probably just going to keep smoking if you want to smoke until the day you want to stop. But if it helps you to hear this from me, let me tell you, I feel a lot better anxiety-wise, and I feel much more patient. Of course, there's going to be a 2 or 3 days right after where you're not feeling so patient. You're a little bit irritable, but I feel pretty patient right now. Past few days I've done, things just don't seem as boring when they're boring. Or they do, but it just doesn't seem as end-all, be-all. This is the worst. Sitting through this is the worst. I just get to kind of, I just go, all right, this will end. This bad show will end. Oops, about to get in a car accident. Watch out. Woo! Fucking Massachusetts, man. Throwing up construction everywhere. I don't know if anyone out there works in city planning or something like that, and they can explain like this new thing with putting out construction cones and blocking off shit like miles ahead of the actual construction. Don't understand it. Seems stupid. Seems like a weird waste of time. Sometimes I'm sitting in construction traffic and I never even see the actual construction. Have you guys noticed that? You see cones, you're driving slowly, you see police cars, you see tow trucks and shit, you see the barrels, you even see like a lit up space, it looks like, where they might do some work, but you don't see the actual work sometimes. Makes you think. Kind of makes me into a Kyrie Irving type of flat earther where I'm like, I don't know if we're getting the full story here when it comes to road construction. All right, that'll wrap it up for this week. Thank you guys for listening to Hypothetically. Check out my website, willnoonan.com. Got a bunch of new dates just added to that from... I just added a bunch of dates last week. See if I'm coming near you. Also got t-shirts, albums, all that shit on there. Would really appreciate if you'd buy it. Christmas season's coming up. It's always nice. Sell some of that stuff and to have the money to spend on presents for friends and family. Also, speaking of money, you can make a donation. Got to start a Patreon. Haven't done that yet. In the meantime, you can go to willnoonan.com. Click on the donate button, or click on willnoonan.com/podcast. Click on the donate button, and it's PayPal. It's pretty easy to do. And, been getting a few of those, so I appreciate it. But yeah, man, thank you guys for listening to the podcast this week. I'll try and get them out as quickly as possible, but also 2 podcasts this week because I'm putting up the fucking Hypothetically crossover with Matthew P. Brown podcast. So anyway, kind of a weird end. I know it was a little stilted. We did like 50 solid minutes there, and then I talked to my buddies and did a show and came back. But hey, that's how it goes sometimes. Thank you guys for listening. As always, love you guys. Remember, if no one told you they love you today, I do. Peace out. Bum 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 bum. You fucking bitch. Where am I going? Boom boom boom. Test 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 test. Testing testing testing. 1 2 3. 1 2 3. 1 2 3. 1 2 3. Test 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 test. Testing testing. Testing testing. 1 2 3. It's good enough, huh? 3 2 1. 3 2 1. 3 2 1. 3 2 1. Motherfucker. Justin Timberlake. 3 2 1. When I look in the mirror, oh, Oh, trying to get this mic. I don't know who am I talking to. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Test, 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 test. You can hear the drunk ladies behind me. You can hear the drunk ladies behind me. Test, 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 test. Back, 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 back.